I'm going to teach everyone here how to mod Baldur's Gate 3. So this won't be a specific tutorial on how to install any certain mod. I'm going to give you a general overview so you understand exactly what's happening, and then you'll know how it works. After that, you can add any mod and you won't need to run to the comments and be like, I don't know what's happening. I mean, by all means, please do. You know, like we're here to help, and hopefully the community will be able to help you solve your problem. But if you have a better understanding, then I think you'll be able to understand what's going on. I said understanding twice, and fix it on your own. Some things have changed, and that's because the latest patch fixed a few things, and there's a few mods that we no longer need. So I was having an issue where every time I tried to do a dice roll, the dice just wouldn't show up on the screen. And that's because in patch number 2, you no longer need the mod fixer. So in order to get rid of the full release mod fixer or the mod fixer, it shows up down here under your overrides. No longer needed. Larian Studios baked that into the game. So click on the shortcut up here for open your mods, and then you'll see the full release mod fixer. You can just delete that. You can, if you wanted to, you could like copy paste it somewhere else, but you're not going to need that. So you can just press delete and it's gone. Come back over here and there'll be a refresh button. There you go. Now you have your stuff, and don't forget to save and export. All right, if you're just joining us, you don't know what all this is, but that's okay. That's just a little fix for everybody from the last video. First thing you need to understand is there's a couple different types of Baldur's Gate 3 mods, and you have to install them in 2 different ways. Now first, there are pack files, P-A-K. Now how do you know if it's a pack file? Well, if you go onto the Nexus and you scroll down, a lot of times the installation instructions will tell you install with Vortex or with Baldur's Gate 3 Mod Manager. Always use Baldur's Gate 3 Mod Manager when you can. So if you see that as part of the instructions, it's usually a pack file. The other way to figure it out is when you go to Files, you come down and you actually download it. Manual download always. Just open up the zip file. I'm using 7-zip, but you can use Windows or you can use your favorite zip program. Have you paid for WinRAR yet? Anyway, right there's a pack file. So that's going to be installed with the mod manager. All right, next up we have native mods. And those are just mods that you can grab and throw directly into your Baldur's Gate folder. These are not destructive because they're adding functionality. So they add like a DLL file. And the only one that could possibly be destructive is this one, but it comes with a backup file of the file it overwrites. So these you do not use the mod manager for. You just grab them and they go directly into the folder, and it'll tell you down here which folder they go into. And there are a few of those. A lot of times they're called native mod loader, native camera. Not all of them have the word native in them, but a lot of them will say at the bottom, if you scroll down, they'll say it requires the native mod loader. And then finally, we have mods that you just simply drag and drop into your Baldur's Gate 3 folder. Most of these are non-destructive because the Baldur's Gate 3 folder structure is such that you actually create new folders called public and whatever. There's new folders you create inside your Baldur's Gate folder. And then when Baldur's Gate is playing, it will look there for certain assets and use those assets to overwrite the actual game assets. So it's a very clever method to make sure that you don't accidentally overwrite anything in your game. If you see a mod that just tells you, you look down here, requires manual installation, place the public folder, and it just tells you to put it into your data folder. That's it. Just drop it into your data folder. Now we're going to go through these and show you how each one of them works. First off, let's get a copy of Mod Manager. So the link takes you over to GitHub, and if you're not familiar with GitHub, it may seem a little intimidating. Just know that each new release has a little bit of a, information file, and then there's assets. If you don't see any assets and it just says this, click on the little tick right there, the little arrow ticker, and then you can get the latest version. So there's the latest version. It's in a zip file. I'm going to click on it and then click it again and it'll open up. Now you can put this anywhere you like. So just create a folder for it. Maybe don't title it GB, maybe title it BG3. I'm going to leave it because it's hilarious. And then you just drag and drop it in there. I already have a copy, but you can literally make a folder anywhere you like. And once that's finished, just open it up. I would recommend right-clicking and creating a shortcut, and then, like taking that and putting it on, dragging it to your desktop, but I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You know how to drag and drop shortcuts, and that's totally optional, but I would recommend like putting a shortcut somewhere. Otherwise, you can right-click and pin it to the bar down here. When you first install this, if it does not find your Baldur's Gate 3 folder, you'll need to go to Settings, Open Preferences, and put in the path to Baldur's Gate 3 right here. This is your data path, so it's Baldur's Gate 3/data, and this is your bin folder, where your Baldur's Gate 3 executable is. Just basically copy and paste this into these 2 spots. Hit save, and then it'll know where your Baldur's Gate 3 is. We need to put some mods in here. So click on File and click on Import Mod. So just navigate to wherever you downloaded your zip files, and then we can just start installing. And you can install multiple at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and control click all the ones that I know need to be installed with the mod manager. Hit open. It's going to import the mods. The small mods almost instantaneously are imported, but then the big mod, like that clothing mod, will take a while. Once we have it all ready to go, it'll show up over here. Now I'm going to teach you how this works so you know what's going on. Right here you have all these inactive mods. Now this shortcut here shows you where they are on your hard drive. So click on this. This is where the pack files are on your hard drive. They go into your app data folder, and this is the same place where all your save files are located. So just click on this. You'll see there's your player profiles, there's your save games. This is basically the Baldur's Gate 3 profile and just all the information that's in your app data folder. This is not your actual Baldur's Gate 3 installation folder, but that's where your mods go. Now, if you go and just like play the game right now, even though there's stuff in this folder, it's not going to work. Like none of these files are actually going to show up in your game. Well, why is that? Well, that's because Baldur's Gate 3 uses a list. So it needs to know what order to load these in. And that's why we really need the mod manager, because it makes that so much easier. So let's take all the inactive mods and just drag them over here to the other side. Now we need to put these in the correct order. For most mods, doesn't matter. But these three mods go together, so it does matter. The big mod goes on top. Basket equipment, and then camp clothing goes second, and then the underwear thing goes third. It'll tell you which order to put them in. So if you download like two mods that overwrite one another, it'll say put them in this order. So that's how I've got my mods right now. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter which order they go in. It's just note that some mods will overwrite some other mods if they have files that are the same name, but most do not. So it's not that big of a deal. Now once you're finished, you click on Export. That's the key. This tells Baldur's Gate 3 to load these mods and to load them in this order. So after you click Export, it says, yes, we now have exported mod settings.lsx. Now you don't need to worry about all this. This is why we have the mod manager, because it does all this stuff for us, exports the list. Now, this is really cool. Let's say you have a multiplayer game and you're playing with someone and you have different mods in different orders, or you're not using any mods at all and you want to make sure that you can play without compatibility issues. Well, check this out. We have our list. This is for our single player game. Let's click on File, and now we can save order as. I'm going to save that as just my SP game. So single player game. I've already saved it once, but we'll do it again. Now let's say we have a multiplayer game where we're not using any mods. Just grab all of these, drag them over to the other side. That way they're in the inactive list. This doesn't delete them. They're still here in the folder, but they're not going to be active. And when you export this, they'll be not active. So hit File, and then we're going to save order as, and I name that my MP game, just for a multiplayer game. Save. Yes, I'll overwrite it. Remember, it doesn't tell the game anything. The game doesn't know anything until you click the export button. So once you put them in the inactive list, click Export, and now it says, here's your list of nothing. And then when you stop playing with your friend and you want to play your single player game, or if you just have a different profile and you have different mods on, you can go and import order from File, SP game, puts everything back over here in the right order, click Export, and then just click here to play. That's it. So that's how the pack files work, and that's why Mod Manager is really, really useful for those types of files. And note that some of those pack files, they do things that actually affect your character, like put clothing on your character, change some stats if you do some of those types of mods, add spells, whatever. They can do a lot of different things to your character. Those go into your save file. So be very careful when uninstalling those or when messing with those, because they can affect your save files. Always make a save before you mess with any of the mods, so that way if something breaks, well, you can just put those mods back and then reload your save and keep going. Now, most of the time it's not that big of a deal. I had a few things in my inventory with mods, like some black dye or whatever. I removed that mod, turned it off, and it just disappeared from my inventory and I was okay. But be careful. Some of the more advanced mods or the crazier mods may mess with lots of different things. So, exercise caution. Now the next type of mod, we don't need to exercise any caution because it doesn't do anything to your save game. And those are the native mods. So let's check those out. Now what are native mods? Well, that's just what they call these different mods that you throw into the folder and it adds functionality to the game. The first thing you're going to need is the native mod loader. So if you decide you want to use the native camera tweaks and the WASD character movement, which I think is awesome, the first thing you need is this native mod loader. So just click on File and download that manually, and make sure you got the ability to read, very important. And I'm also going to download native camera tweaks and the WASD movement. I won't go through all this, you know how to go and just make sure you're doing manual downloads. Download, and it'll tell you what it needs right there, which is really handy, and then you just download. So get all those, and now we're going to mess with those. So these go straight into your Baldur's Gate 3 folder. Now the easiest way to get to your Baldur's Gate 3 folder is usually just open up Steam or GOG and click on this, click on the little cog, go to Manage and Browse Local Files. The other way to get there is if you still have the Mod Manager open, you can actually right-click on the icon that launches the game and click on Open Game Folder. That takes you to your bin, but you can just click on Baldur's Gate 3. Now I'm going to start copying these native mods over to my folder. So first off, we have to get the native mod loader. This one is the only one that's even close to being destructive, because inside this bin folder, there's a Bink 2W64 DLL. There's already one inside here that comes with your game, but it's not a big deal because they've also given us the original. So when you're uninstalling this, you just delete this one, rename that one back to that. So just drag and drop the bin into your Baldur's Gate 3. It knows where to go, and hit replace all. Yes, overwrite everything. So there we go. If you're not using 7-zip and it looks funny, if you don't use this same program, it may just be opening in Windows. That's fine too. But you know, however you can, just open up these different files. Now I'm going to do the native camera tweaks. Same thing, just drag and drop the bin into your Baldur's Gate 3. The folder structure is already set up for you. And last I've got the WASD mod. There we go, just bin, drag and drop it in there. We're done. Yes, indeed. Now if you look inside your bin folder, you'll see that there's now a native mods folder. And if you want to get rid of these, you'll need to just delete the native mods folder and this Bink 2W64 DLL. You just delete those and then change the name of this one back, just get rid of the _original, and it'll be fine. You'll be playing without the mods. But why would you want to get rid of your stuff? So inside this folder, inside the native mods folder, you can see we have the camera tweaks and the WASD and whatever other native mods you put in there. And there's a way to change the functionality of those. If you see, there's a TOML file for each one of those. That's sort of like an INI or a config file. You just right-click on that, or just double-click if you already have it associated with your text editor. But you know, if not, right-click and then click Open. And it'll ask you if you want to open, you know, with what program. I generally like to use Notepad++, but if you don't have that, you can just use Notepad. I like Notepad++ because it's got dark mode and everything else. But just for the sake of the video, and most of you out there, I'll use Notepad. As you can see here, this is the camera tweaks. We have lots of different options. Most of you will not need to mess with this, but you can if you want to. You can go through and just look at every single line of this and see what it does. The only thing that I really like to change is the rotational multiplier, and that just because it's a little bit too fast for me with the mouse. I bring it down to 0.75. That just makes it, you know, turn a little bit slower because my mouse DPI is pretty high. You know, we make sure if you're going under 1, put a 0 there. But if you just put that, it's going to bug out and be like, I don't know what that is. There's just a dot there. And then I also do my keyboard rotational down to about 1.5. There we go. That's pretty much it. You can go through this on your own. And you can also watch my other video on this mod, so not a lot to go over there. And that's it. Those are pretty easy mods. The last type of mod are just like some texture overrides, or sometimes UI overrides, stuff that you can just drag and drop right into your folder. So I'll show you a couple of those and then you'll be off. It's pretty easy actually. Just sounds like a lot the first time. So I have the immersive UI here, and I downloaded that because it makes different pieces of the UI disappear depending on where your mouse is on the screen. That's really handy, especially with the WASD mod. And you got a folder in there just called public. Well, where's that go? That goes inside your data folder. And most mods that say public or generated or whatever, sometimes mods, they'll just go inside your data folder. So drag and drop it in there. I'll give you a quick note on this one. It gives you the whole directory structure all the way out until you get to the stuff. This one, it makes all of your different elements of your UI disappear, but I don't want all of it to disappear, so I'm going to go inside all the way here. There we go. I like my player portraits to always be on the side because I drag and drop stuff to my player portraits and I don't want to deal with messing around with that, so I just delete that one. You know, if you wanted your map to stay up in the corner all the time, you could delete that one. You can, if you want your dialogue to always have all the options instead of just contextual, you can delete that, whatever. If you want your combat log to be huge, you could delete that one, but I like to leave the rest of those in there, but that's my personal preference. These also do not mess with your save file, so you're good to go. And any mod that has a folder that's like public or generated, you just drag and drop it in there. And if you ever want to delete it, you're going to have to come in here and see which one it is. If you have thrown like a whole bunch of mods in here, you'll need to figure out exactly which one it is. Like, did I do a texture overhaul for the humans or the elves? And then you just come in and delete whichever ones that have, you've downloaded. It might take a little bit of messing around, but it's not that big a deal. The main thing is that mod manager. The rest of it's kind of just drag and drop and go. So enjoy modding. Let me know how this works for you. Let me know how it's working since the latest patch. And also, now that we're at the end of the video, I'll tell you a little bit about this channel. Hi everybody, this is Easy Mode. My other channel is Tech Syndicate. I'm way more into gaming, tabletop, PC gaming, retro gaming, whatever. I'm way more into gaming than I am into hardware. So hardware was always kind of a mistake because I feel like hardware is really just a vehicle to allow me to play my games and make games. So I'm also working on a little game project, and I'll post updates about that here maybe if you want to hear about it. It's a quick adventure, so let me know if you want to hear about that. I'm going to say no to most advertisers on this channel, so just that's what's going to happen. If you're advertising something and it's not exactly what I want to talk about, I'm going to say no. If you show up and you're like, hey, this is Larian Studios calling, we'll give you $500 to do an ad for Baldur's Gate 3, I'll be like, okay, we'll do that because that's totally something I think would be good for the audience. And for that $500, I could use it to work on the game, maybe hire some of you all to do voice acting. I should make a video. If we make any money on this channel, I'll make a video and then you all can send me voice snippets and I'll hire some of you to do some voices in the game and I'll pay you. How about that? Speaking of the last thing, if you want to support the channel while also getting some cool stuff, we do have some hardware that we made ourselves. There we go. And also make some music, so that's another thing. If you like the music, you can get that, or you can get this hardware. 30% off right now, epicpants.com. These, yes. I love the way these analog sticks feel. But the main thing is it is a very similar layout to the DualShock, but it's way less expensive. But I like it. I actually like the analogs better on this than the Xbox or the PlayStation. But that's me. I played all the way through Hollow Knight with this thing, so yes, it does work for super precise, crazy stuff. 30% off over at epicpants.com with the coupon code backtoschool. So that, the keyboard, and we got some mice and everything else. Just go over there and check it out. That's pretty much it. Thanks everybody for watching these videos. I hope this one gets more hits than the last video because this one's kind of the relevant one now that there's been an update, but we'll see how it goes. If you're going to share any modding videos, this is probably the one to share. Next up, I am going to do another modding video specifically talking about the mods that I like. We'll start off with the cosmetic mods that I like because I do like to customize my characters, as you know. So we'll talk about that one and maybe get some ideas from all of you, like what are your favorite cosmetic mods, but we'll see you in that next video in a few days.